Thank you for that. That was a bit of fun because these guys got to head off and I did not want to miss that opportunity. So seriously, this is a chance that most musicians don't get, which is to hear what people think about music in a live scenario. It's to hear what questions they have about music or about art or about creativity. Any of those topics are on the table. And this really got ahead of steam up last time because people started bringing up questions that I'm sure had been burning inside them for decades. That's the way it came out. So if you've got those questions starting to well up inside of you now, this is the night. This is the chance. And I know some people have asked me in the last month when they could ask me their question already. So is anyone here who's got that question ready from last time? Anyone who wants to kick one off? Because otherwise I'll improvise. Okay, we're going to go straight in. So this is, has anyone seen, apart from the people who were here, has anyone seen one of these before? Do you know how to play it? Would you like to come and play it? We'll go out of there. Thank you. Any questions? Sarkis.
The process you use while you're doing that, it feels like you're including us, and so there's no self-consciousness. Can you talk about that?
I really like questions straight off the bat. That's the
I always type.
it's a really challenging concept to be aware of what you're doing and concentrating solely on the instrument and solely on the music and the performance, and yet feel like you're also concentrating on the people in the room. To feel like that you're including them in the performance whilst concentrating solely on this, especially with this instrument because I'm looking down. And so my other senses are sort of feeling people in the room, but I'm very aware of the fact that this is a very unforgiving instrument. I haven't got frets to guide me. I have to be, you know, that note there becomes that if I'm just off. So I'm listening intently for my pitch to be spot on and trying to sense the room at the same time.
Does that suffocate creativity sometimes? The more specific you have to be with the playing of the notes because you have to focus so much on that. Rather than the piano where you can kind of get away with a bit of a game shot, as long as you hit the key, you hit the key.
Well, has anyone played piano in the room? Pianists would argue that it's all about dynamics and the weight of the key, but they're not worried about pitch as such, but they've got a whole bunch of other things to worry about.
Yeah.
No is the answer. I think it enhances creativity, very much so. Because I think I talked about this a bit last time. The thing I love about this instrument, the thing that makes this just so appealing and so challenging at the same time, is that myriad of options between two notes.
Because you can slide in.
And you can slide, we're talking half a mil, has that expression.
Yeah.
We're talking about this note here, that if you choose the vibrato, even in a particular way, fast vibrato or slow vibrato, all those little notes either side, you know, with a vibrato get really expressive. And so, all those little bits in there, there's a quarter tone in there, but there's so much to play around with. So the concentration part is challenging. The options explode in terms of creativity. Yeah, that's how it feels anyway. It doesn't mean I don't hit a lot of wrong notes. But it's a really good point. You know, I think you start off, when I was young, I very much believed in wrong and right notes. You know, that's the notes in the scale that I'm trying to hit, and those ones aren't in the scale. And then when I came to this instrument, I realized what a bizarrely irrelevant concept that was. That if you are, I'm in the scale, and you sort of start hitting all these little half quarter notes and think, well, which one's the right one? Especially if you switch scale halfway between. So I just think creativity, it's a common phrase that the more you know or the more you learn, the more it stifles your natural flow. I just think that's a bizarre fallacy. I think the more you know, the more curious you get. And the more curious you get, the more you explore. I mean, music can't be conquered. There's no, there's no end to it. I met a guy in Canada who said having an ego in front of music is like having an ego standing in front of the ocean. It's yeah, that's right. That's how it feels. So it's, yeah.
That's what it feels like. Can you hear what it sounds like to have an ego in front of the ocean?
You push me. I love it.
Ben, what is it about a bent note that tugs at the heartstrings? And slide is the same. It's something to do with the fluid shifting of pitch. It really is affecting.
Do you want the science answer? We're talking about, I mean, that there is a sine wave. You know, it's going, and the science of music gets really complicated, but it doesn't have to be. It's essentially all about the sine waves intersecting and the clash that occurs. So the minor third, you know, in a scale clashes with the natural harmonic series. And that note alone, without bending or sliding to it, creates a tension through physics alone. It's clashing with a major third that is inherently in nature. Now, when you start adding, or when you start bending, there is just, the emotive answer is it mimics the human voice. The human voice doesn't go on. It doesn't go. There's a journey in there. It's not. So it's the journey between the intervals that creates the tension. It's the narrative. And what's great to play with is the speed and the dynamics of those. That you can make it quite bluesy. Or you can, like that, it becomes cultural, it becomes textural, but that is completely different than if you're doing like an Eastern sort of bend, which becomes quite minute in comparison. Those little quarter tones. So it's just a different flavour, different emotion. So that sort of clash there, that's a clash of sine waves. Is there a better way to explain the sine wave thing?
I think that's excellent.
Leonard Bernstein talked about this, you know, the best I've ever heard it explained, which is that you just have these laws of nature, and it's called the natural harmonic series, and if you flick a glass, a wine glass, thank you, right on cue. The note that emits from that follows a law of numbers. You have the principal sound, then you have the octave, then you have the fifth, the third, etc., etc. It keeps going along a series of numbers. And when the numbers within the structure clash, that's what creates the tension.